Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of Trending in Hollywood right here on the Hollywood Critics Association YouTube channel. I am joined by the man right next door. And by next door, I mean an hour away from me. And that is Demetri Panos.
It's not that long. Hey, everybody. It's not that far away. Jeez. Only by plane. No, I'm kidding.
So, Demetri, how are you today?
Oh, I am moderately copacetic. Yeah, hanging in. You know, it's another Friday, and actually, I'm stoked to be here for Trending in Hollywood because there is so much trending right now.
Yeah, it's funny. It's the complete opposite of last week, where there was really no news that came out, and this week we're back to having way too much news. So we're going to try to cover as much as possible throughout the hour show, and unfortunately, the show does only last an hour this week because I actually do have an appointment at 12. So we're going to kick things off. All right, first things first. Suicide Squad, the Suicide Squad, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, whatever you want to call it. You would think that after the Zack Snyder controversy, they would not put James Gunn's The Suicide Squad as the title, just in case they lose him. But hey, we'll see. What were your initial thoughts on the trailer?
Oh, I was all in. It seemed like such an improvement after that. I was not a fan of the Suicide Squad, the first movie, and this one. Look, it's Guardians of the Comicsology. It totally has that Guardians of the Galaxy vibe to it, from its use of music, from the banter and the dialogue. Look. I'm a really big fan of Harley Quinn, or specifically Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. She is so great in that role, but everybody else really seems to stand up too. It's just, this is a gift of James Gunn in getting people together and ensuring that their chemistry works. The trailer was fun. It was crazy. I can't wait. I could not say that about the first Suicide Squad. This one, I can't wait. I'm all in.
Oh yeah. And I would have to agree. It's so ridiculous, and it just embraces it like it's normal. It's kind of what I love about the feel of the trailer. You literally have people sitting in detention, and you have a shark going like this, and you're kind of wondering yourself, what is going on here? And I really, again, the chemistry looks like it's there. We don't really get a lot of scenes of group shots, but we do kind of have some one-offs where we have Idris Elba going up against John Cena and kind of going back and forth dialogue and whatnot. But I would agree with you. I think, listen, I have been, and there's full disclosure, I have really enjoyed most of the DC stuff, and I've said that before. But Suicide Squad, the one with David Ayer did, I don't. There's no forgiving that movie. That movie is just terrible. It's Agreed. The one movie where I just remember walking out of it and being this is awful. And to see this, all the trailers leading up to this point, this Red Band trailer, I mean, I've just been more and more and more on board with everything that they're throwing at me, and it just looks more and more and more ridiculous as it goes along. So I'm sold.
Yeah, same here. I think they did a great job. Disney was probably going, we were so stupid. Talk about literally, they. Not for lack of better words, they canceled him. They fired him.
Yeah.
They said goodbye for something he did a decade ago, if not more, right? It was more than a decade that he did those dopey tweets that he admit were dopey tweets. And Disney lets him go. And no sooner does he get fired, Warner Brothers says, hey, you want to do Suicide Squad? And he's like, I'm out of work. Sure. And then Disney's and then the whole cast of Guardians is like, if you, we're not working without him. And they finally go, okay, would you please come back? And he's like, yeah, but I'm busy now. I got a gig. And
yeah,
that's what basically happened.
I mean, I really don't get it. I mean, the thing I will say though is that James Gunn will never be able to go fully James Gunn over at Disney, regardless. I mean, even I love the first Guardians movie. Second one, not so much, but the first one, I mean, I love. It's in my top 5 of the Marvel movies. And the reason why I loved it so much was that it felt so different from all the other entries in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Right. The second one just kind of felt like they were doing more of the same, and it lost me. But this reminds me of the James Gunn movies that I remember falling in love with James Gunn as a director.
Right. Right. Yep.
Is that I just think he's really, really great at what he does.
Yep. Yep. And he gets it. And it's really, and that's why like Suicide Squad has that same tone and feel, except it's obviously going to be rated R. I want to go back to Margot Robbie because you and I talked just before the show, and you made a comment, and I agree with you, which is, yeah, they seem to give her the best lines, but and I love her as Harley Quinn. If there ever comes a time where she just decides to opt out, I would be sad because I'm not sure they're going to find anybody with that verve to do it. She loves the character. My other Idris Elba comes in too and shows, hey, I could have a sly, awesome sense of humor. There was nothing about this trailer that didn't make me say, oh yeah, I want to see this now.
Yeah. Demetri, I don't know if you pressed the button. There you go. You did it. That was going to be my question. I was literally going to ask, why do I have, like, I'm promoting StreamYard. I'm already paying $50 a month for StreamYard. They don't need extra promotion on this show. If not, they can give us some promotion by all means. We'll be happy with StreamYard support. But yes, no, I agree. Margot Robbie, I think it's very interesting because when I saw the Suicide Squad, the one that we don't want to talk about, it's like it was just so white trash, like pretty much like the Joker, her character. It just felt so, I don't know, like it felt so outside of the universe,
right?
And when you watch her in Birds of Prey, it's like, oh, this is the character that I love. It's weird, it's demented, it's quirky, it works, and like it's still kind of trashy and a little all over the place, but like not like it was in that movie. And then when you watch this, it's kind of like the same version, but amped up even more because it's James Gunn. And if you've seen James Gunn's early work, you know how ridiculous the man is. He has these crazy plots and like these crazy characters and crazy situations, and he's bringing that to life in a big budget blockbuster. And I think you can tell he believes in Harley Quinn. He likes the character of Harley Quinn because she takes front and center in the trailer. Even though we've seen this character before, you would think you would want more focus on the other characters. But at the same time, there's a lot of Harley Quinn.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that this movie too, because of the gun factor, is going to have a lot more crossover than the initial Suicide Squad did, which, let's face it, the people who really loved it, and like I'm not begrudging you people, were the DC fans. Look, Suicide Squad made over $100 million. It was amazing to me that a movie so not good, it could make so much money, but it really was driven by the DC fans, right? This one, I mean, the trailer alone, I think is going to bring in crossover people who had no idea there was a Suicide Squad movie out a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I think building on Harley Quinn, which admittedly didn't make huge waves at the box office, but nonetheless a very good, entertaining movie. I think it's going to bring in new fans, and I think generally from the trailer, and I hope I'm not wrong here, I think it's going to be a good crowd pleasing movie. So even
My
though it's
only
rated R.
criticism, and this is just going to go from my feelings on John Cena.
Mm-hmm.
So John Cena has been trying so hard to break out of the wrestling type, I don't know, image. And he's
Mm-hmm.
been doing a lot of the comedies, but I feel like a lot of his comedy work has been very one note. It's always like grounded in like, I don't know, like dick jokes. So like when his scene came up and I smiled, I didn't laugh. Like it wasn't as funny as the line at the end with Harley Quinn.
Right.
But it was more funny with the fact, it was funnier with the fact that the girl, I don't even know what the character's name is. This guy's like, who would put a whole island of penises? Like that was more funny than anything that John Cena was saying. But like, I don't know. I'm a little worried about John Cena in the regards of like, he's so trying so hard to be funny all the time when I'm seeing him in movies that it kind of wears on me a little bit. I'm just being honest. It doesn't seem natural. It like just seems like someone's trying so hard.
See, he kind of grabbed my attention in Blockers, which I found to be
that's the one where it lost me. Like it was like a little bit of it in the beginning was fine, but like it just kind of kept going, and I was like, all right, like I got it. It's like one note.
Well, we agree to disagree right there. No, I liked him in Blockers. I mean, I know he did a kids movie and such. He was also, wasn't he in Bumblebee?
Yes.
Yeah, he was in Bumblebee.
Yeah.
You know, like this movie
basically, which is
basically. Yeah. I don't know. I enjoyed Blockers. I think it still holds up. I think it's a funny movie. He looked funny in this too, but everybody seems to be given, again, it's like Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Everybody was given their moment in the trailer. Oh God, I forget his name. He's the guy that played RoboCop for 2 seconds.
Oh, Joel.
Joel Kinnaman. Joel Kinnaman. Yeah. He actually was given like more to do. Like everybody came to the plate where that first movie was just such a mess. It couldn't even focus on characters well enough that you even got a sense of who the actors were outside of Will Smith, you know? So
and I think the interesting thing about Suicide Squad versus Justice League, and then we'll move on from this, but the thing that I think is interesting about it is
a good segue.
Fans basically saw things in Justice League that they knew weren't right. Like when you watch and even I saw that. Like there's aspects of it where I was kind of like, wow, this would have been really, really good if X, Y, and Z were in this. And fans called WB out on their bullshit for doing it. For Suicide Squad, I don't know if I feel the same way about that. I feel like that was just like a mess. Like even though there probably is another cut of that, and maybe it'll improve a little bit, I don't know how much that would really improve the movie. Because there's certain things in Justice League that I can still look back on the theatrical and be like, those were good scenes. It just was in there's very little good things about Suicide Squad, in my opinion.
I agree with you. No, I agree. Justice League theatrical is a mess, where Suicide Squad is a hot mess, a hot steaming mess. So, but I think that talking about Justice League now is a wonderful segue into our next hilarious topic.
All right. So here we go. This has actually been something that if you've been following the show, if you know Demetri and I, we love going back and forth on this topic. And this headline is the best. Solve for Why, the imaginary numbers of streaming. So I didn't even put up. So Demetri wanted me to share this article about the most viewers for Justice League in like 5 minutes, and then
Yes,
I
I
started
do have the
digging
article
into
up.
this. Did you read about this? This is
I
fascinating.
did.
So,
I did.
so then Warner Brothers came out and said that it did not do as well as Wonder Woman 84, and then a couple of days later, another article came out saying that Warner Brothers is messing with the numbers. It actually did way better. And then there was another article that came out that said that only 1/3 of the people who watched Justice League finished all of Justice League. And it's funny because when you have something that everyone is trending in Hollywood, right? Everyone's like, what can I make an article about? You don't hear this about any other movie. But everyone all of a sudden is like calling bullshit on the numbers. They're like, well, wait a second. There was so much more buzz for this movie than there was Wonder Woman. How can the numbers be lower? And then somebody comes out, according to this service, the numbers were a lot higher, but they underreported it. And then someone, oh, maybe not everyone watched it. Hey, in 5 minutes, this many people watch it. Like, so that article, which I highly recommend everyone reading, and it focuses not only on Justice League, but also on the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because Disney's headline for Falcon and the Winter Soldier when the first episode premiered was most views out of anything that has premiered on Disney Plus. And it's like, what does that mean at the end of the day?
Yeah. And this is what I affectionately call trending in Hollywood 360, because it all comes back to our show. This is stuff that we talk about. This is stuff we've made fun of since the beginning of the pandemic. These wacko numbers of like most viewed, like Coming to America, they even said like this is the most viewed Amazon has had during the whole entire pandemic. And that's sad because they've had a lot better product. But to me, the funniest, like you show that headline, but the one from, I believe it came from comingsoon.net reads, Snyder Cut draws 1.8 million households in first 5 minutes of release. What the editor in that article took out was the remaining 3 hours and 55 minutes of the movie dropped precipitously or something. I mean, they talk about Snyder Cut as if it's a Quibi show. First 5 minutes of release. And then everybody decided to get up, go make some popcorn, go to the bathroom. It's the funniest thing I've read. The first 5 minutes of release, it's a 4-hour movie.
Here you go. Just so you know he's not making it up. Here you go. This is legit. This is journalism here for you people. Real facts, reporting facts.
But Coming Soon does not report that unless Warner Brothers puts it out, or HBO Max, or one of the, or AT&T, well, whatever it is, to talk about the first 5 minutes of a 4-hour movie. Well, what about the rest of the movie? What about Chapter 6? I mean, it's ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. And I'm going to go back to things that we've said before. I don't understand at this point why there is not more pressure on studios to start releasing their legit numbers. One thing I've learned by working in this wacky business for 30 plus years is the studios, when given the opportunity, they love to pound their chest. They love to thump their chest. And by giving legit numbers here is an opportunity for studios to legitimately say Hamilton was our number one thing for 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
Just do a top 10. We used to have it back in the 80s and 90s with VHS rentals, with DVD rentals, when they were a big thing. I don't understand why we can't. Here's the deal. They know you're. I don't care whether you have cable or whether you've cut the cord. Okay. If you're streaming and you're on a IP, they know who's on there.
Yeah.
Right. So they know how many people are watching at any given time. So I just don't understand. take an aggregate of that hour-long show, a 4-hour-long show, or 2-hour movie, and just say, you could say how many views you got in a day. You could say how many views you got in a weekend. Report it as if you would box office. I just think that they're afraid because views are different than dollar signs.
Right.
Dollar signs people can equate to. And I think we're going to talk a little box office this week, but it wasn't dollar signs when they were saying that, Indiana Jones was the number one rented DVD of the time. Right. What I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't understand why we don't do that today, other than these made up wacky headlines.
Well,
literally, it's
Justice League beats Falcon and Winter Soldier for U.S. opening.
When did that happen?
Apparently 2 days ago. I mean, geez. I mean, you're just missing the boat here, okay?
I am missing the boat. I
mean, all these conflicting headlines, who knows what to make of this? And they wonder why people don't trust facts when it comes to this stuff anymore. You can't have Coming to America be the biggest movie. You can't have this being the best movie. You can't have it's like their studios love, and I don't understand this either. They love beating their chest. They're King Kong versus Godzilla. It's like literally they're like, we beat WB, we beat Disney. It's like it's just like it's like these headlines are just there to kind of like get you to click on them anymore. I mean, it's embarrassing to me.
It's crazy. And how do they know? They're not telling us anything. That's why I'm do look to thump their chest, but now thumping their chest, precipitously without even giving any facts. And as someone who reported box office and did it looked at analytics and things like that, this is crazy. I got nothing to go on. I'm just going by. Look, my dog Brady agrees. He's really pissed off at that last article you showed. How dare they say it beat out Falcon and Winter Soldier? And and again, you're talking about two different things. You're talking a movie. You're talking an hour episode of 45 minutes. I just don't understand why there isn't a better ratings metric for studio streaming. Because Coming to America that weekend may have been the most streamed movie that weekend. It may have been. And, maybe not the following weekend. Maybe it dropped. Maybe there was a switch. Maybe I forget what came out after Coming to America. But wouldn't Amazon have loved to have been able to say, wow, we made a great choice in spending all that money to get Coming to America too, and we're the number one streamed movie of that weekend. I would figure that would be great, legitimate press, other than making up a number and saying, oh, it's the best that we've had. Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it makes no sense. I was reading a little bit more into the numbers, and I mean, so what they're saying is that Justice League had 1.8 million households that viewed it, and then
in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's no details, and then apparently Falcon and Winter Soldier had 1.7 million. I do want to bring this up real quick since we're on this topic, and then we'll switch over to Godzilla versus Kong real quick. My friend who I play trivia with every week basically told me that his friends had no idea that these movies were streaming for free on HBO Max. They thought it was like Disney Plus, where there was like an add-on to them, that they didn't automatically get them. And if you read Disney's press release for the new stuff that we're going to talk about in a few seconds, it also, it says, this, Premier Access, but it doesn't really hone in on the price point. It kind of like acts like you're just getting Premier Access if you get Disney Plus. So there's a lot.
Right.
All I'm basically saying is I'm like not saying that
Confusion.
any of them are right and they're doing your research. There's a lot of misinformation going around. So it ties into this about viewership, also people not knowing about services, what's on them and how much, if they have to pay extra or if they're getting it with it or when it's coming out, if it's in the movies first or whatever. So I think there's going to be a lot of confusion as we continue to move forward.
Well, I think that, and again, Disney is kind of weird. It's almost like if you log into Disney Plus, Raya and the Last Dragon is there, right? And it says Disney Plus Premiere. But if you have no idea what that is, you go, oh, Raya and the Last Dragon, you hit it, and then you get $30. What? I gotta pay what? They're raising their prices on me, and I gotta pay $30. No. HBO Max, I think, was kind of upfront where it's just there. If you go on HBO Max, it's there.
Yeah.
And if you hit play, there's nothing going on. Like as far as like, it doesn't take you to a screen and says to continue, you're going to be charged whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to keep up.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, which is why it makes this story, interesting as well, because I think for the longest conversation, and not Cruella, we all kind of had a feeling Cruella was going to go to Disney Plus, just based on the mixed reaction from the trailer. But the Black Widow thing it's a weird thing to report on, and let me say why I feel this way. Because Marvel, just like DC, has a very huge fan base, and they're also event movies. So in this case,
and they're also passionate.
I can see people going to the theater if they're open, which it looks like a lot of theaters are going to be open by this date, which is now July, which is tied to Joe Biden's thing that we talked about last week when stuff is going to reopen. But I do see people double dipping the chip for Black Widow because of the fact that they're so on board with Marvel stuff. So like they cannot wait to kind of go to the movies, experience that with their friends, get a group together, and then they come home and they're like, "Oh, I want to watch all those hidden clues in there, like what the people do with WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier." Sure. So they're going to get that they're going to get so much back from that, where like they're going to get a nice box office return. They're going to get a nice Disney Premier Access return on that. But everything's going to fall that way. Everything's not going to fall that way.
Is it Disney Premiere, or are they just putting it on Disney?
No, it's Disney Premiere. The only one that's not going to Premiere is the one that's from Pixar, Luca. Luca is just, they're doing the same thing they did with Soul and kind of giving you like, here's your summer present. Here's another Pixar movie
which looks really good, by the way.
It does.
Luca looks really good. I'm very surprised that they're doing that. I'm kind of surprised that they're going to do it in July with Black Widow. I see for a $30, dude, for $30, if it's $30, why would a person spend $30 to watch it at home again for their second time when they can just go back to a theater and pay $12 to $15? Because 9 out of 10, they're going to see it IMAX, whatever, or less, and they can just see it again for less.
Well, I think what the difference is, screen. What I think the difference is that, again, we always talk about this from our own personal experiences, from our own households. So you and I are, you're there by yourself. I'm here with one person. It doesn't make sense. But for people who like have an apartment where they live with 2 or 3 other people, it's like an all-in thing, and they can kind of go in. Families, I mean, that's something that we've talked about before. If you have at least 4 people in your household, it's a savings. So, but you also got to remember that the fan base for this is the fan base for people who would spend $300 or $400 on an action figure.
Yeah, but
the people who go and buy a
I have never
t-shirt
spent that much
You have never spent that much?
for an action figure. Hell no.
No, I've never spent
No.
that much either. I think the most I've ever spent for an action figure is probably about like 80 or 90 bucks, but it had to be something like massively big, like the one
I got you. I got you beat. 50. Ha. So no, but you're talking about the fans of Marvel, right?
Right.
So to go home and spend, I don't know. I again, it would. This is being optimistic and thinking that by July, a heck of a lot more theaters and locations are open. I just think it's still cheaper. Now, somebody's writing an MCU film is only £20 premiere access. I would pay. I don't know what £20. I don't know what that translates to
USD.
American.
It's the same price as ours. It's basically $30 USD.
It's $30,
but it's it's $20 for them, but $30 for us because their value is much higher than ours.
Right, but I wouldn't pay $30 not to watch unless I'm owning it. The only time I'm paying $30 is after I've watched a movie at the theater. The only time I'm paying $30 is to own it on Blu-ray, to have the physical copy so I can watch it anytime. But to watch it on streaming, I wouldn't do it. I would just go back to the theater. So especially at this point, if I have a subscription. Well, there's another thing too. We're not counting the people who have subscription like AMC Stubs or the Cinemark or the Cineworld, right? If you have that, again, why would you pay $30 to watch it a second time? I don't know. It's an interesting experiment.
Yeah, I think, but it's one that's flawed, and the reason why I say it's flawed is because you can't look at something that has a huge built-in fan base compared to an original content. So, like, you can't compare Cruella and Black Widow because, first of all, you already know the hype is not there for Cruella. It's right. Mixed reaction at best. People are been burned and they kind of have mixed feelings about their live action adaptations. Mm-hmm. Some people love Maleficent. Some people hate Maleficent. Some people love that whatever thing that Beauty was the live thing that came out, or Beauty and the Beast,
or a lot.
So, like, again, from a family standpoint, when you're looking at it from just that audience, so like, so $30 for a family of 4 or a family of 6, that makes sense. But for individual people, it doesn't make sense. But also, just the properties alone, you're going to get automatically, you're going to get more people who are going to pay for Black Widow than they're going to pay for Cruella. I mean, this is not rocket science. This is literally facts.
No, and that I don't disagree with. And, you know, something one of our Zach says that theaters will most likely not be at full capacity in July, and that's correct. You know, right now there'll probably be maybe 40% in July. Everything's dependent. I think everything is very fluid, but that's something to consider. But there's another thing though too in the Hollywood Reporter article that we were basing a lot of this off of, right? The top of the headline, the first sentence in quote says, "There's not much theaters can do," because Disney kind of did this like out of nowhere. It just came out. And so obviously they didn't talk to theaters.
No.
They just said, this is what we're doing. Again, this is something we talk about. I will say it again. It's trending in Hollywood 360. It's almost as if these people are watching the show. You know, exhibitors are getting the raw deal here. They're getting the short end of the stick. They're not even part of the process. I mean, it really is. Like, if studios really, really want this to survive, and it's not just all about their dollars and cents, stop making it so blatant that it is about your dollars and cents. If you really want exhibition to survive, you gotta let them in. Like, you just can't be having these little side deals or come out with this news. When a headline reads, "There's not much theaters can do," I don't know. It kind of, it kind of like, I go, ugh, it frustrates me.
Okay.
And again,
no, go for it. It frustrates me too. But here's the problem that I have. We're only seeing one side of this equation. Mm-hmm. We don't know. It has not been revealed to us if exhibitors have been approached and they're not liking the negotiations. We don't have that reporting. I mean, I kind of find it hard to believe that every single studio at this point, and I mean, you're talking about all the major ones besides like Sony, are doing this new platform of putting stuff on their streaming service. You have Paramount doing it. Yep. You have Warner Brothers doing it. You have Disney doing it. So, like, to me, those are like big guns. Mm-hmm. How do we know that they don't have the conversations and that they're not being open-minded to change?
I'm just going by history here. I'm just going by what happened with Warner Brothers. Okay, when they just fully just splat right out there with the shotgun, said 2021, we're putting everything on HBO Max in day and date for the entire slate of movies. Like, they didn't even say for the first 6 months. They just said the entire year. Exhibitors had no idea what was going on. And then everybody's following suit. And again, when you look at Raya and the Last Dragon, there are still some theater chains, like I believe Cinemark being one of them. They're not playing it because they didn't like the deal. So obviously Disney was talking about Raya, right? And Raya would have done, like, Raya's doing okay theatrically in the amount of screens that it's in. We don't know how it's doing streaming wise. But again, when it says there's not much theaters can do, and this is like from an executive, I gotta believe that. Okay, so what? They had the conversation and they're basically saying, F you, this is what we're going out with. What I'm saying is there's no cohesion. I mean, they really need to come together as a group. They need to come together. There need be some semblance of a summit in order to preserve this, because it's going to be a mess and it's going to make things more antagonistic going forward. And there's already been, prior to the pandemic, this symbiotic relationship has already been somewhat antagonistic, from theaters complaining that the rentals are too high to studios saying, well, we don't get your popcorn and we don't get your advertising. You make all this other money that we don't get, so we have to do this. And now, though, there's a dire need to help the studios. Like, I can't imagine studios wanting to leave money on a table, especially for a movie like Black Widow. I get Cruella, but for a movie like Black Widow, how do we know what money would be left on the table?
We don't.
And they really need. We don't. And but what I can say is, because it's Black Widow and because it's Marvel, there's going to be monies left on the table. And instead of just come up with a universal thing to help, they need to help each other out. They each need to come to the table and make, pardon the pun, but they need to make concessions. They need to come to an agreement. And it shouldn't be the studios running this stuff. Like, they should, in a sense, try to work things out together. We know that windows need to collapse from 90 days. We know that. Okay. But they should do it with the exhibitors, and the exhibitors have to go to the studios and say, okay, there needs to be some summit. There really does. And I'd love to be a part of it. I want to see the industry thrive. I want studios to get their monies, and I want exhibition to come out of the pandemic to also make money. And then maybe they can, like, upgrade their air filtration, because now we know what happens in a pandemic and what need be fixed. And we can, I mean, if I were an exhibitor, I would be focusing and advertising safety, 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 and the best experience you'll have. And you're going to be safe. That's what I'd be doing. Get the people back into the theaters, but they're going to need help from the studios to do it. So, you know, it shouldn't be the studios dictating what the theaters have to do. And I think that's why the theaters are pissed off, because they're just sitting there going like, okay, you did this. You didn't talk to us. It's like, well, what the hell? So, you know, and somebody means, what is a movie theater at the end of the day? Just the space with chairs to watch movies on. I disagree with that statement, because going to a movie theater today, especially today, but even when I was a kid, where I would go to the Sac Charles in Boston, Massachusetts, it was the experience. It's going to see a movie in Dolby or in IMAX. That Black Widow would be great. You and I talked about Zack Snyder's Justice League and how great that would look in IMAX, right? Going to a movie is an experience that is unique in the way of, you can come out of it. You're not spending. It's still cheaper to go to a movie theater than it is to go to a baseball game or a basketball or football or even theater, right? And it's an experience that you really, unless you are Steven Spielberg and you can build your own screening room that has that kind of sound system and screen size, that's what a movie theater is. And I just think that the studios just come out and dictate their terms. And when it says there's not much theaters can do, that quote basically says the theaters have to bend over and take it. So I don't, you know.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm going to segue into this because it actually kind of, well, no. The funny thing about this article, which I guess was, there's 3 writers on this: Clayton Davis, who's a member of the organization, Mark Malkin, and Brett Lang. You know, there's a lot to take away from this article.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought one of the things that's interesting ties into what you were talking about, right? So one of the pushes, like, we don't want Zoom and we want to be a platform for pushing people into movie theaters again. That was a big part of the article.
Right.
And you and I talked about this before, and you've been much more vocal about this than I have, is that you want to go back to a movie theater when you feel it's safe. And the Academy has decided that they're going to make that decision for you and tell you right now that it's safe, which I have a freaking huge problem with. And I have more of a problem with the fact that they believe that everyone is just sitting in Beverly Hills right now waiting for the Academy Awards, going like, oh, it's right down the street, I'm going. Not thinking about Carey Mulligan, not thinking about Emerald Fennell, not thinking about Daniel Kaluuya, that they're not even freaking here. And they want them to risk their lives so they can sit on in their stupid ceremony. And not knowing, we just know from people in the chat, UK cinemas are not even open.
Right.
So guess where those people live? There.
Yeah, there.
So it's like, you're like, oh, well then screw you. We don't want you part of it. Like, I don't know.
It's bad form.
I haven't cursed yet. I'm putting. I haven't cursed yet.
We are F-bomb free for another 30 seconds. I agree with you. I don't know what Steve Soderbergh is thinking. I mean, but didn't he make a movie in the midst of the pandemic?
Yes.
So he's probably thinking, hey, I made a movie in the middle of this. Why can't we have the telecast? No Zooming whatsoever. I think part of it is, too, because this article came out on March 24th, so that's just a couple of days ago. This is well after the disaster that was the Golden Globes. Okay. So it was well after that disaster. And they probably said, I have a feeling that they already know that it's baked into the equation that the ratings are going to suck.
Of
Am I
course,
wrong?
of course.
Okay, it's baked in, uh, especially with the movies that we're seeing, like that will most likely walk away with a statuette. Um, so I think they're afraid of the technical glitches, and but I agree with you 100%. It's like it's very obtuse at this point, unless of course in the goodie bags that we know all the actors and all the talent get, they're going to include the vaccine. With a special collectible needle that you get to keep and frame. Say it's my Oscar vaccine, and it's the Johnson and Johnson, so it's one shot. I can go to the Oscars. It's going to be in every goodie bag. So, I mean, to me, it's kind of obtuse. I would just follow what the Grammys did.
Yes.
And try to do it that way because of all these award shows, minus HCA, but they can't do it the way we did. Well, they can if they wanted to, but maybe they just don't want to put in the work or just follow the Grammy template to an extent.
The Grammy template was great. I mean, listen, awesome. I thought the Grammys as a whole was terrible, but the way that they set things up to make it feel like events, and where everyone kind of had their own set and they had different like almost like it just felt like they were able to walk to different locations. And to me that really worked. It was visually appealing because you're kind of like, oh, where am I at now? And then like they had everyone really socially distanced to the fact that it still kind of felt like a gathering. Right. I commend them for doing that. I thought they did really well. The problem with they're talking about, like everyone's talking about the ratings and whatnot, nothing's going to save the Oscars ratings. You can do it in person all you want. You can put everyone in a Dolby Theater. It's not going to make the ratings go up.
No,
it has nothing to do with that. I don't know why people don't understand that. It's just people don't care about the stuff that was released that much. It doesn't have that mainstream appeal. I'll beat this dead horse until I'm blue in the face. But that's the truth. This stuff doesn't have. I mean, if you put WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Zack Snyder's Justice League and Jungle Cruise and Mission Impossible, like if those were like in the campaign, I would put money on the table right here. The ratings would be better. 100%.
Couldn't agree with you more. So, no offense. I'm not even gonna go down that road right now because I'm sure we're gonna have a lot of post and pre-Academy Award talk. But there is a light, I guess, or something that's kind of positive. If we want to talk about movies and box office and such, and that's Godzilla versus King Kong. Right, that's most likely our last topic today.
Yeah,
powerful box office debut in China, and I think that this is I actually think that this is positive news for movies going forward, so long as we don't go into another not Purge. If we
another Purge, we got Purge 7. It's coming. Don't worry, it's still coming. There's another.
I meant another surge where things have to shut down. Look, Europe. There are a couple of things going on here. Number one, China. Why did Godzilla vs. King Kong open in China first? Well,
I wonder.
The simple answer is piracy. It's piracy. So this way, when it opens up at a theater near you, which today that theater could be 20 miles away. So it opens up over there, but it did fairly well, and it kind of bodes well for how it might do in the States. And I'm not saying it's going to do 20 million in the States. I'm not convinced that we have enough theaters or screens open, and our capacity on average, I think, is 25% across the country. So that's going to hurt it a bit, but I do believe that the movie could get out and do some business here. And looking at the those China numbers is really good. Movie opens next week, right?
Yep. And we're open on Wednesday. On a Wednesday.
And when are we embargoed until?
Well, we're going to do just a brief reaction. We can give our social reactions. So the way I've done this before in the past is just kept it under 60 seconds.
Yeah, and I think, I think we should talk about King Kong vs. Godzilla. I didn't know if we were allowed to talk about it, but
we are. We're allowed to just give a general like overview of like what we thought, but we can't go into like specifics of what worked and what didn't work.
Right. Okay. Overview. What I thought. The movie was Rock'em Sock'em Toho fun. I had a blast watching this, and gotta be honest, I wished I could have seen it on a huge screen. It delivers what the title says, and it doesn't make you wait for it. It was a blast to watch. I was like grinning. I was like, wow, this is the core of this movie really works, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I would just say, we'll talk about it more next week.
Yeah.
To echo what Demetri says, 100% delivers on what it promises. My opinion, out of all the recent entries, both in Godzilla universe and Kong universe, I think this is the best one in terms of delivering on that promise. I don't know if I would say that much in terms of story, but in terms of delivering on what fans want, I think this one delivers. And one last echo, 100%. I would have loved to see this movie. I would have loved to see this movie on an IMAX screen.
Right. I mean, we'll go more into certain detail as to why.
Yep.
But let's just say it's Titan. It is Titan, and it would fill it, and it would look really good and sound really good. I was it's one of the movies that and because again, I think in part I've been saddled with such serious movies, to watch this movie where I literally checked my brain in at my kitchen. And then, I had a really good time. So I think everybody else will too.
Yeah. Before we close out, I do want to, you brought up something that I was literally thinking about. And I don't know if it's the fact that I came off such a deeply depressing awards year where like everything that I watched, like literally was just so damn depressing.
Yeah.
But I have felt between watching this film, Nobody, and Zack Snyder's Justice League, like I feel like I'm like, I might actually be guilty of overpraising stuff just because of the fact that like it's like the content that I've been missing so dearly and I have not gotten enough of, that when I watch these things, I'm just like, oh, this is what I wanted. Where were you? Like that's how I feel.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm so in the same boat, and all right. So sue me if I overpraise. I watched a movie this past week that I think is available today, The Vault. Right, and again, this is a heist movie, and I think too because it was so different from a lot of what I've seen, that a heist movie that was really well put together, I was like, this movie's very good. Like, wow, it was just so different. And I think it's a good sign though, Scott. I think it's a good sign because it's this shift. Maybe we're going to start to see more of the movies, like these commercial movies again. Look, I was a huge fan of Tom and Jerry too. I really had a good time because it just made me laugh and it felt good. So maybe in 2021, we're going to start to see more movies coming back, and the movies that we love and have a great time at may not 100% be Academy Award nominated movies, but the entertainment looks to be coming back, and I can't wait to watch more and just feel good about watching a movie and not shut my TV off and feel like I'm not going to sleep tonight. I'm depressed.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
Yeah, no, that's it, and I'm ready to start our Oscar campaigning for next year. Coda for Best Picture. I'm 100% okay with that. You talk about a movie that has a message, but also makes you feel good. Let's go. Let's start it off right now.
First time I felt that good in a year after watching that movie.
Exactly.
Best Picture. Yep. Good. Yep. All in.
All right. Well, thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Trending in Hollywood. Like, share, comment on this video. Let us know what you think. We'll be back next Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And until then, enjoy yourself. Watch movies.
And thanks for everybody. Now, I just want to say thanks for everybody that was on live and commenting. It's kind of refreshing, don't you think, Scott? Like us two middle-aged white guys. And well, hear me out here. A lot of the comments here have been, and I gotta have to compliment these people. They're not mean and nasty, whether they agree with us about a Suicide Squad or anything. They're joining in on the conversation.
Yes.
And I really think that is something today that need be praised, because there is a lot of people can be so negative in these boards, and everybody's voiced their opinion, and they don't necessarily 100% agree with what I say, you say, we say together. But that's what this is all about. So I thank the people who have watched us live and who are commenting. I thank you for your comments, whether you agree or disagree, but you've been civil, and I'm going to praise you for being civil, and thank you for tuning in. That's all I have to say.
Very good, Demetri. And on that note, see you next Friday. Take care.
All right.